Well, let's get to our first topic of discuss today. The controversial petroleum subsidy regime has been described as a policy that is hurting the economy and the ability of government to service its mounting debts. According to a latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria spent 1.51 trillion naira on the imports of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, in the first quarter of 2022. Well, this means that a total of 675.93 billion naira was spent on fuel subsidy in Q1 of 2022. Despite the increasing cost of fuel subsidy, Nigerians still suffer a hike in cost of transportation as the return of fuel queues in Lagos and its environs has once again brought to the fore the argument on the removal of fuel subsidy. Let's get more insight to this and all other issues surrounding the Nigeria oil and gas industry. I'm being joined via Zoom by the Group Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of International Energy Services Limited, Dr. Diran Fawibe. Dr. Fawibe, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon, Tolu. Thank you for having me on this program.
Yes, I want to start this way. I know we've talked about this so many times, subsidy bills and all of it. But now it seems to be on the other side. It's getting so high that many say we might not be able to sustain this. The figures are alarming when we look at it compared to our revenue generation facility in this country. Now, do you think we can continue to sustain this? And what can really be done to address this? Or was it expected?
Well, thank you very much, Tulu. I'm very impressed with the statistics you read out at the intro, giving the historical and their present statistics about the subsidy we are currently paying on petroleum motor spirit in the country. And as you rightly said, it's very, very alarming and it's very disturbing, and one tends to feel that if this continues for another, for the rest of the year or for another 1 year, we don't know where it is going to land us. Like some people tend to say that, they hope that the subsidy will not bankrupt the economy, and when you see the progression, in terms of the subsidy bill, you tend to wonder, what is really going on and what can we do? Now, as you will recall, the government or the president has said that, there's not much that can be done in terms of subsidy removal for the rest of the tenure of this administration. And the removal of subsidy will be left to the incoming administration, which will be sworn in May next year. One is just wondering that if we have to wait until after May next year to remove a subsidy on petroleum product, that is petrol, then what will be the state of the economy at that point in time? And, recently the World Bank, was, as usual, making advocacy for the removal of subsidy, and many experts have come in to also make suggestions as regards that. One will feel that if the government, federal government, and particularly the president has said that there is not much that will be done for subsidy removal this year or during the remaining tenure of this administration. So does it mean that the call for removal of subsidy is now falling on deaf ears, as it were? And to my own humble opinion, I feel that government can still reverse itself by way of saying that, okay, we did not, at the time we fixed the subsidy remover, passing it on to the new administration, we never envisaged that the situation will be like this in terms of the outbreak of Ukrainian war with Russia that has spiked the price of crude oil in the world market, and by extension, the price of petroleum product we tend to import to the country. And for that reason, government cannot afford to continue to subsidize the price of petroleum product. I tend to wonder, one thing. that it is the president and his vice and this administration, the government of Nigeria that was voted into power, to tackle all economic problems. Much as I will give to labor union, the right to be the voice, of the downtrodden and engage in lobbying and putting pressure on government to avoid taking unpopular economic measures. But this issue of subsidy removal tends to be a major plank on what labor union has been advocating over time. Is it not about time that labor union should relax? And some civil society organizations tend to have supported government, in terms of removal of subsidy. Now we have been hoping and hoping on the Dangote refineries, coming on stream, and also the rehabilitation of the government refineries being completed, particularly Port Harcourt refinery this year. The chances are that these refineries may not go on stream, this year, whereby the importation of petroleum products will be stopped, and that will mean that we shall continue to import motor spirits into the country. And given the rising price of fuel in the world market, unfortunately, since we are importing petroleum products, can we afford to continue to sustain this importation and payment of subsidy? So a large extent, we've said it time and times and over many times that the subsidy we are currently paying on motor spirit is unsustainable. Yes, we may be saying that private, World Bank and some international organizations were interfering in our economic affairs, as it were. But to a larger extent, even domestic experts have said, echoed what World Bank is saying, and even many have come up with the analysis that the subsidy payment, is detrimental to our economy. It's not just a case of economic theories and so on. It's very practical. And when the Minister of Finance came up a couple of weeks ago that even the low level of production in the country, the revenue coming from production and export of oil is not sufficient, to is less than what we are paying on subsidy. That should raise an alarm. So that's what I'm saying. My own humble opinion is that government of the president should now rethink about this issue and consider that well, we then have to do something, so that we won't have to leave this matter to the incoming administration, because even when we have a new administration that will be sworn in end of May 2023, the removal of subsidy shouldn't be the first economic measure the new administration will make. So, which means that we will be in that street for quite a time to come. So, my own humble opinion is that it's not too late, and for government to rethink. Just like Winston Churchill said that I will not have indigestion for eating my words. If the government, the federal government goes back on his word by saying that we have to rethink and then at least remove part of the subsidy, and that policy rethink will not cause indigestion, to the federal government appetite of autonomy.
Thank you so much for that detailed answer. That's to really explain this and know where we stand. But let me follow up very quickly with that fear of seeing diesel sell today at about 900 naira per litre Kerosene is also on the other side. I know we've also talked about this before. So maybe that's why Nigerians are a bit skeptical about letting go. And some are suggesting that this subsidy removal could also be in phases. Maybe we understand what government really has in stock for Nigerians, because something must be done to cushion the effect.
No, the current state of the energy industry in Nigeria is a matter that calls for a national emergency. I would think, it's not just a question of raising alarm. If you are buying a liter of diesel for 800 naira, 900 naira, you can imagine the impact it's going to have on the production level of the companies that are manufacturing companies that produce goods and services. And then, which of course will increase the prices of these various goods and services, ultimately leading to a rise of inflation. The current level of inflation, which was dished out, a couple of weeks ago, is about 17.7%. And the government has been doing a good job in terms of stemming the trend of inflation in the country. We were hoping that by now we should be having a single-digit inflation rate. But some of these challenges or problems cannot be put at the doorstep of the federal government as such, because if you look at what is happening in other countries, United States and Europe, inflation tends to be rising too, likely because of the increase in the price of gas, crude oil all over the place. Many consumers in US and in Europe, they are also complaining bitterly about the increase of fuel price, to the point that US president is now proposing, suggesting to the Congress about tax holiday, for at least temporary tax holiday, for in order to bring down the impact on consumers in the US. And then for diesel, I don't know how much production costs will rise to in various companies that are using diesel generator. When we look at different homes, especially given the challenges the diesel is having about electricity supply, you see that Nigeria are going through a lot, presently. So I think all these, the president must be giving honest and transparent report and information about what is going on, and there must be a way of alleviating the sufferings of Nigeria, both in terms of energies, for the various areas of their life, and also for the manufacturing companies that are producing goods and services for our people. It is only in this way that we can bring down inflation rate. When salaries and incomes of workers are kept constant or at a low level, and then what they are going to buy with this those salary is the prices are rising in the market and so on. You can imagine the effect on the people. At times we tend to wonder, how will these low-income people survive? And then this also is partly contributing to social vices in the economy. I believe government has to do something pretty quickly.
Dr. Foribe, let's talk about the marginal oil fields now. We expect them to get their licenses today, I think about 57 of them. And happily, government has also been able to rake in about 2 trillion naira from this process. But my question would be, will this help us improve production one way or the other? Because we are obviously not meeting up with OPEC quota.
Now, one of the challenges we are having now currently is the low production level in the country. And the reasons for this have been identified to be low investment, in by the international major oil companies. And I've said this thing before on a number of platforms that even though we were we were beating our chests for passing the PIB into PIA, last year, August, when the president signed it into law. But it was coming rather late, and at the time that the oil was in high demand, investment was coming into the oil and gas industry, we were playing politics, with the PIB. And now, by the time we now pass the bill into law, there is a clamor for transition into green energy. And then, the West is no longer willing to finance, fossil fuel. And the government, particularly the vice president, has been campaigning that it will be unfair, to actually discourage investment into fossil fuel, in developing countries, and the process has to be transparent, and consideration has to be given to developing countries that contribute marginally to carbon emission. In Africa, it's just about 3% compared to some other countries that is over 20%. So now saying that you don't want to fund investment in fossil fuel in African countries is absolutely unfair. But that said, since we don't have enough funds to develop oil and gas in African countries, particularly in Nigeria, so we then have to look for ways by which we can improvise. So the marginal fees operators, they can make some contribution towards increasing production level. If the international major oil companies are listening to their government, and we know that some of them who are still investing in fossil fuel in some other parts of the world. I know a major company that is investing substantially in Ghana, and some are going to East Africa, either for oil or for gas, some in Namibia and so on. Whereas they are not putting money into a Nigerian environment, which I would consider is unfair. But at the same time, we have to look at things from the perspective of the international majors who have been subjected to a lot of harassment, in their producing area of our country, in terms of their infrastructure being vandalized, bombing and so on. And then at times, some of them did express misgiving about the attitude of the authorities to certain things, So these are contributory factor to low investment in the oil producing fees in Nigeria. So the 57 marginal fees awardees, getting their license today, and one hopes they will be able to raise enough funds, at least say half or 2/3 of them to be able to go into the various oil fees, and then open up the fees that have not been operated for quite a while. Maybe in another 12, 18 months, they will be able to bring some fees into production, which I believe will add to whatever we are getting from the major producers, both the IOCs and the independents. Now, OPEC has given Nigeria about close to about 1.8 million barrels per day, and we are still producing under 1.3 million barrels per day. If some of these marginal operators are able to get cracking, with activities in their various fields, maybe in the short to medium term, they will be able to increase production level. If not this year, at least in the coming years. So in the process, we'll be able to increase our national output, to the benefit of Nigerian people.
Much for your time. Always interesting talking to you. I've been speaking to Dr. Jerome Fawibe. He is the Group Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of International Energy Services Limited. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tulu. Have a great day.